Several years ago, there was a show on VH1 called Totally Obsessed, and they reached out to me because they saw my website, findadeath.com, and asked me to send an audition tape to be on the show. I guess they liked the audition tape because they reached out to me and asked me to actually be on the show, but they refused to let me mention my Find a Death website. They just wanted me to look like I was a lunatic, which I guess I am, just collecting weird things for no reason at all. And I decided that's not really what I wanted to do, since I wasn't getting paid for it anyway. So I chose to say no to the show. But here's the audition tape that I sent to them. It's a little choppy because I was with a new video camera. I wasn't quite sure how to deal with that, with the lighting, etc. But it really doesn't matter. This is the original audition tape for the show Totally Obsessed that I refused to do, because I have more integrity than that.
At VH1 that you were interested in profiling me for a show called Obsessed, and I guess the thing I'm obsessed with the most is death, although I've got certainly a lot of obsessions. I've been interested in it for several years, actually, since I was really just a has always really fascinated me, and the whole idea of what happens afterwards is sort of interesting. But the act does tours of the stars homes. My tour basically has a bit of a twist to it, or a sort of obvious spin on things. I like to show where people like Janis Joplin died and John Belushi and things like that. But I also have to, out of obligation, do a lot of the living stars as well. It's I collect memorabilia about death, which I'll show you in a few minutes. I intended to become a mortician for a long period of time when I was young, but then I decided that it was too technical, and actually the whole biological aspect of death isn't very interesting. It's sort of the spiritual, sounds a bit melodramatic, but it's just the process of death. This, why it happened, how it happened, who it happened to, who was there, where they're buried, what they were wearing when they were buried. That's the sort of thing that interests me. That's why I started my website, findadeath.com, because I wanted to see where things happened. I was living in England at the time, and when Princess Diana died, I couldn't get to Paris to see the tunnel where she died, and it drove me mental. So, because it was visa reasons, I couldn't leave the country. So when my visa finally went through, I went to Paris and got a picture in that tunnel, which was quite dangerous actually, because the cars are zipping by at like 70 miles an hour. Got my picture taken next to the tunnel, next to the pillar where Diana died, and posted the pictures of the tunnel and all those sort of locations on the internet for my friends to see. And that's when I sort of got the idea. I've always been into sightseeing anyway, but virtual sightseeing via the internet. And I began findadeath.com, and I started writing the ends of people's biographies. And it's gotten a considerable amount of attention, which I'm proud of. It's been on CNN and things like that. It's still, it doesn't make me any money. It's just given me some sort of notoriety, which I haven't found a purpose for yet. But I enjoy it because people come to me, and I've become sort of an expert on celebrity death, although I stand corrected many times. I just sort of collect all this information. And I collect objects, and I'll show you a bit of that in just a moment. I lived in England. I went to Diana's funeral, of course. I went to the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's funeral. This is a sign from the subway that I managed to steal. What do I have here? That's a piece of Jane Mansfield's house. That's a piece of George Burns' house, and those are pieces of the Barker Ranch, where the Manson family were arrested. Over here, B. Arthur's vodka bottle, long story. Dean Martin bought me that beer, piece of the Hindenburg. That looks like a butt plug, but it's actually an urn, a little flower urn for a cremation niche. There's a little art of Diana's tunnel in Paris, Maryland, of course. That is a tile from the pool where Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones died, drowned in that pool. Next, that is a piece of Jane Mansfield's pool. James Dean, just junk. There's the coroner from the Munchkins, The Wizard of Oz. I just sort of know him. Piece of the Barker Ranch again. There's a piece of there's a can of split pea soup that Linda Blair autographed for me. Piece of the Golden Gate Bridge. Piece of the piece of the Titanic. I just got this. I have this crap all over my house now. That's artwork from Jonathan Adams, who played Dr. Scott in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There is a tile from Jane Mansfield's pool. The Supremes. If you got on findadeath.com, I'm sort of passionate about the Supremes, especially Florence Ballard. That is from Harold and Maude, Ruth Gordon and Bud Cort, autographed to me. Very nice. Rebecca Schaefer was murdered by a man named Robert John Bardo, and that's a letter from Bardo. continuing on to the Hall of Shame. A nice note I got from Vincent Price when I wrote him a sympathy letter when his wife died, an autograph from Divine, who I met a few times. A letter from Tex Watson, who actually killed Sharon Tate. Autographed autopsy report of Sharon Tate by Thomas Noguchi, the coroner, who's done everyone. Kevorkian sent me that letter when I sent him a donation. A note from John Wayne Gacy. Patty Hearst wanted poster with a Patty Hearst autograph. Reggie Cray was a gangster in England, who very famous in England, sent me that letter. And that is a piece of the floor from the Ambassador Hotel where Bobby Kennedy was killed. The actual floor in the room where he was killed. That's just a wanted poster by Edwin Cunanan. My other passions is collecting obituaries. This cabinet, all these cabinets are filled with obituaries, interesting death certificates. You know, I started filing them just because I started acquiring way too much stuff, and I had to organize it somehow. So, like here's Mel Blanc. He was the voice of Bugs Bunny, and here's his death certificate. Melvin Blanc died of cardiopulmonary collapse, heart attack, stroke. Done. But this whole cabinet is filled with those types of things. Yeah, there's autographs, more junk. I mean, I have tons of this stuff all around my house. I don't know exactly what it is that you need. Oh, wait. Okay, this is the stuff that most people are really jealous of, that like this sort of stuff. Now, here is a rock from the Oklahoma City Federal Building. Rocks from Karen Carpenter's grave. A piece of brick from Lucille Ball's house. Jimmy Stewart's grave. No, it does seem like I'm a bit insane, but there you go. That's that's from a dinner with Roger Moore I had in London once. A piece of Karen Carpenter's house. What's this? A rock from Marilyn Monroe's grave. This is a piece of the mortuary in Hollywood where Bela Lugosi's funeral and Peg Entwistle is now demolished now. Gertrude Stein's grave. Petrified wood, Ireland, boring. Formosa Cafe, more of the Strother Mortuary, Fisherman's Wharf, the Menendez Brothers driveway, some of Loch Ness. Now this is a rock from James Dean, his memorial in Shallam, James Dean's grave in Fairmount, and the actual place where he was killed. What's this? Cromwell Street. Fred and Rose West from England. They were serial killers, killed their daughter and many others, and buried them in their house. This is from Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment building when it was demolished. This is from Sharon Tate's house. This is from George Burns's house. See, I collect all kinds of junk. I mean, this is a piece of the actual lamppost that Zsa Zsa Gabor hit about, it was Thanksgiving a year and a half ago. I saw it on the news. I went over and got it. That's a piece of the actual lagoon from Gilligan's Island. There's a rock from Maryland's pool in there. Old Ben Franks on Sunset Boulevard. Cigarette butts. Jerry Halliwell. Ronnie Cray's grave. Carrie Fisher's cigarette. There's a piece of the Heaven's Gate house in there. I've got roses from Ava Gabor and Gregory Peck's funeral. Yeah, so, you know, it's loads of junk. Loads and loads of junk. And there's now war bonds right there. Carol Lombard died collecting war bonds in a plane crash, and inside that is a piece of her plane crash. It's still up there on the hill.
The Heaven's Gate piece was a gift from my friend Harry Martin, and the Carol Lombard piece is from my friend Steve Goldstein.
That sums me up. This is a really quick tape. I didn't know exactly what you wanted, but I'm going to send this out this morning. So you have it, and that's that really. My contact details are on the letter that I'm including in this, and talk to you whenever. Thanks for your interest anyway. Bye.
You heard me.